Hey friends, it's Carolina Moore, your favorite sewing and quilting YouTuber, and today I'm sharing with you a brand new product. You probably haven't seen it yet because it's super new on the market, and that is the Drink Cozy pre-cut batting by Gypsy Quilter. And what this is, and I've already opened this package up, is there are 8 in a package of these pre-cut batting pieces, and they are already cut with that curve that you need when you're going to wrap this around a mug or a drink to make a drink cozy. Super smart, right? So I've already made a couple projects with this, of course, because I had to get my hands in and play. So this is made with scrap tape, and there is a pattern for this, and I made it in 2 different sizes, one for a big mug, one for a small mug, and it just wraps around with a little bit of elastic and buttons. And then, because the Strippy Star ruler is one of my favorite rulers, it is my favorite of the specialty rulers that I've tried so far, I made this cozy with stars on it, and on the back they overlap a little bit, and then on the front there's like one whole full star. So these are patterns. I'll link to those down below so that you can grab those patterns. They're cut loose press patterns, and you can get them at your local quilt shop, or you can order them online with the link. So now I want to show you how easy it is to use this. We're going to make ourselves a drink cozy using selvages. I have tons of selvages, and I'm always looking for fun selvage projects. So I'm going to go ahead and make myself a selvage drink cozy with this batting. You ready? Let's get started. So what I have here are just different selvages. I grabbed selvages that I have in blues. I've been collecting selvages for a couple years, and I am going to use those as well as one layer of this cozy and my sewing machine. And I also have just a small ruler. This is the quick trim ruler, and a rotary cutter. So we're going to get started by using like a quilt as we go method to attach these selvages to the drink cozy. And I'm going to start, let's see. And I want to look at my selvages. I want to actually have the pretty parts of my selvages on here. This one is going to end up getting trimmed off on the end. So I'm going to grab maybe a less pretty part on this one so I don't waste a really pretty part of my selvage on stuff that will get trimmed off. So I'm just doing it at this same angle. And then I love this one because it has some like fringe on it. And I'm going to overlap them by about 1/4 inch. And I also want to kind of match my arc that I have going here so that this one is lined up with the edge, and then this one's also going to be lined up with the edge. So it's kind of going to have a gentle kind of arc as we go across. So I want this to be at least, if not more than, 1/4 inch of overlap. And then I'm just going to take it to my sewing machine. Let me go ahead and trim this first so I don't have all these tails in my way. And I don't need to trim it super close. I'm just trimming it so I don't have big, huge tails flying around. So I'm going to stitch right here. I'm going to use a straight stitch, but you could absolutely use a zigzag here or a decorative stitch if you wanted to add a decorative stitch to your drink cozy. And I'm just stitching straight down. So you can barely see my stitch on the front because my thread matches. On the back you can see I stitched from before the batting all the way past the batting. And that's what we want. We want it secured all the way down. I need to decide what part I want showing. And I love the names of the collections on here. So I'm not even going to use a ruler here. I'm just going to do a quick trim with my fingers well out of the way. And you could do that with scissors as well if that makes you more comfortable. And after each you can peek to make sure that you have at least 1/4 inch of extra hanging over. If you want to be super fancy, you can fold your top fabric and your batting fabric out of the way, and you can use 1/4 inch seam allowance and trim this down. I'm really not that worried about it. I'm okay with having a little extra bulk. This isn't a quilt, this is a drink cozy, and it's a very slight amount of bulk, so I'm not worried. I'm going to keep going in the same way, adding strips until I get all the way to the end. There we go. I have my whole piece, my whole batting completely covered, and I have at least a 1/4 inch on all sides. So the bottom curve, the top curve, and both sides. I have at least a 1/4 inch to be able to use my seam allowance. And now I can sandwich this together to make my drink cozy. You need a piece of fabric about 5 by 15 or so as your backing fabric. And I'm just going to lay these right sides together, making sure that there's at least a 1/4 inch seam allowance on that backing fabric on all sides. You'll want to cut a 4-inch piece of elastic and give yourself a loop, and then you're going to tuck this in here on one side. Now you can take this cozy, fold it in half, and then tuck it in at that halfway mark, and you want it to stick out about a 1/4 inch. So when I fold this back onto the batting, that's the edge of the batting, and you'll see that sticking out about a 1/4 inch, and it's right there in the middle. And I'm just going to pin it through all the layers, so grabbing both those layers of elastic plus the backing fabric. There we go. And then making that all smooth. So that's going to be the closure. And then to keep these layers together, you can add a couple pins. There we go. And now I'm going to stitch all the way around. This side has my elastic, so I'm going to start on the other side, and I'm going to give myself a gap of a couple inches. So I'm going to stitch, go all the way across the arc, down this side. You can stitch back and forth a couple times over this elastic if you want to help give it some extra security. Go down to this end, all the way around the bottom and up, giving myself this gap that I'm going to use for turning. So let's go ahead and stitch that up. So I went ahead and stitched all the way around, leaving myself a hole for turning. I can trim this up to a 1/4 inch. I can also get rid of these pins. And I didn't stitch into my batting. I stitched right next to my batting. And sometimes you might snag a tiny tuft of the batting in your stitches, and that's fine, but you really want to be stitching right next to the batting and not through the batting, because you don't want that batting bulk in your seam allowance. So I went ahead and just trimmed these with the rotary cutter because that feels faster to me, and I'm just going to trim the rest with scissors. There we go. It's not a perfect 1/4 inch, but I'm not worried about that. Now, let's see, this side had my elastic, so this side has my hole. I do want to clip these corners and my curves a little bit before turning. So I'm going to cut off the extra bulk on my corners so that I have nice sharp corners instead of lumpy balls in my corners. And then you can carefully add some little clips down here on this curve. And on the top as well. And if you're a quilter and you don't really do much with curves or garments, these little clips help that curve. It helps all the fabric lay flat on the inside. So we're just cutting at least 3/4 of the way into the seam allowance, but we're making sure not to cut the threads You don't want to get more than like 2 or 3 threads away from the seam itself. So I'm going to now turn this all right side out. And I like to get all the way down to the bottom and pinch it with my fingers and then pull it out. I have that purple thing, which is a little tool that's great for when turning things right side out like this. And I'm going to use it to poke out the corners. You don't ever want to use the points of your scissors to poke out the corners because you can actually cut right through your corner, and that's super sad. There we go. That is pretty flat. I'm going to take the seam allowance here on the open end. I'm going to fold them in with my fingers and then finger press this closed. And I can use a pin to secure that closed. Because now what we're going to do, I did not want to secure close right. Stay, friend, stay. Okay, so now we're going to do a stitch all the way around, and that's going to close this hole right here, as well as give a nice layer of top stitching. And when I do top stitching, I do it usually about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, but you can do it whatever width away from the edge you want. You just want to make sure that you are closing up this hole while we're top stitching. Okay, we're almost done. Just one last step, and that is to add our button. I've got this fun kind of two-tone button that I'm using. You can use whatever button you want. Just want to grab your coffee cup, and you're going to wrap it right around. You're going to make it nice and snug. There we go. And you have your elastic loop here. With a fabric marking pen, we're just going to mark where we want our button to go, and then all we have to do is hand sew on this button so that the elastic loop can wrap around that button and hold our cozy in place. And it's that simple. I have links for all the products that we use today down below, so you can go ahead and grab those links to the patterns that I showed at the beginning, both the star mug as well as the scrappy mug cozies. Those are patterns that are available for purchase, and the links are down below. And I have links to the products that I used, the batting as well as the scrap tape if you want to make the scrap tape cozy, the purple thing, and everything that you'll need to make these projects. And it's that easy to convert selvages into a cup cozy for your favorite drink. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, I'll leave those down below. Remember that the comment section is for you, and I'm looking for any questions that you have so I can make sure to get you answers. You can go ahead and fill out that comment section with your questions and comments because I really am here to answer those for you. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell. And if you enjoyed this video, I really hope you'll hit the share button and share it with some friends so they can see how they can make their own cup cozies as well, and encourage them to subscribe. There's so much going on here, quilting and sewing fun. Thanks so much for watching, my friends, and I will see you right here real soon. Bye for now.